Good evening, councillors, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this full council. I will now invite the Mayor's Chaplain to lead us in prayer. Thank you, Father David. Thank you, Father David, and thank you also for yesterday's wonderful service. Thank you. Will we get on with this evening's meeting? Do we have any apologies for absence there? So, oh, sorry, councillors, do please be seated. Sorry, I was getting so used to all the standing yesterday. I do apologise.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. We have apologies from councillors Ariambath, Cresswell, Izard, Mountain and Pryke this evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Are there any declarations of interest in respect of any items on the agenda this evening?
Councillor Woodliff is showing.
Yeah. Councillor Woodliff.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I've got a problem with motion number 2, which is about the winter fuel allowance. Yeah. And because of that, because I was in receipt of that for several years, I don't think I can stay in the meeting to discuss it. Effectively, I think there's a pecuniary issue there. So I'm going to withdraw. It's my decision. I accept that the monitoring office may advise yourself on that. But it's my decision, and my decision is I will leave the meeting at that point, and I won't take part in the debate on motion number 2. Wonderful. Yeah. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Madam Mayor, I have 2 declarations. First, I'm a board member of PSPSL, and whilst there's no actual item that I need to leave the meeting for anything, obviously there are figures in reports and things that concern PSPSL. I just want to put on notice. And the second, in line with Councillor Woodliff, I have been receipt of the winter fuel allowance. I do believe that's a pecuniary interest, and for fear of being washed away by a flood of crocodile tears, I will be leaving the meeting.
Yeah.
Ditto.
Councillor Alison Austin.
Thank you. I could potentially be financially, so I will withdraw from that meeting.
Thank you.
Part of the meeting.
Councillor Bedford.
Ditto, Madam Mayor.
If you'd like to come in on this, please. Thank you.
Certainly. Thank you,
Thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
I do appreciate and understand, of course, it is a matter entirely for councillors if they wish to disclose the matter and leave the meeting. But the motion number 2 on this evening's agenda, you wouldn't have a disclosable pecuniary interest in that matter just by being in receipt of that particular benefit, because that's excluded under the regulations. It could possibly be a non-registrable interest, but then you would have to consider whether it directly affects you, a member of your family, or a close associate, and if it affects you more than anybody else, and if a reasonable member of the public would consider that your judgment today was clouded. And that's a matter for you to decide. And I would just suggest that you read the details in the motion. And of course, council is not making, a substantive decision on a payment of the benefit this evening. You're just deciding on the details within the motion. Thank you.
Have I the council's permission to sign the minutes of the meeting of the council held on the 15th of July 2024? Are there any communications, Mr. Chief Executive?
There are none, Madam Mayor.
Are there any deputations or petitions?
There are none, Madam Mayor.
Are there any questions from the members of the council?
We've received 10 questions this evening, Madam Mayor.
Question to Councillor Andorian from Councillor Gilbert, I believe, is the first question. Thank you, Councillor Gilbert.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. In the last 10 weeks, Boston has acquired a new MP and Britain has been convulsed by riots associated with a vague agglomeration of people described by Westminster politicians and the media as the far right. In respect of the former, we've read about Boston quite a lot in the national press, and what has been said, whilst broadly an accurate description of our town, lacked any insight into what has happened to Boston over the last 30 years and why, and moreover, what is to be done about it. Likewise, while Boston thankfully didn't suffer with local social disturbance, the issue of immigration was cited as its cause nationally, following the killing of 3 small girls at a dance party. It seems to me that Boston is a borough ideally placed to gain a mature grasp of the issues of immigration and the various challenges associated with it. In respect of the challenges, these are, from my experience as a town centre resident, markedly different from the challenges associated with immigration in 2010. We have a precedent for such an approach in that we have, in the past, prepared an award-winning report on the impact of immigration on our borough, and we are now once again fortunate to have the vice chairman of that committee that prepared the report, Councillor Paul Gleeson, back on this council. My question for the leader, Councillor Doreen, is this: would you and your cabinet fully endorse and resource the preparation of such a report? Evidence could be taken from public and private organisations such as the health providers and the management of Boston's cultural offer, plus police, education providers, the civil service, employers, and of course the public. By contrasting it with our earlier report, we would be able to see what Boston got right in the past or what things changed which were beyond our control. Boston needs this council to work together across group affiliations so we can better understand our town and the challenges that face us. So in respect of the specific issue of immigration, we have the evidence to take to government ourselves rather than do as we have done previously and rely on our MP to speak up for us. Thank you very much.
Councillor Doreen, would you like to respond?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I thank Councillor Gilbert for notice of his question. I don't entirely agree with every point you've made here. However, the gist of what you've said does resonate with me. Firstly, I'd like to comment on the report which you've mentioned, which at the time was universally accepted as an exemplar scrutiny report, and I commend the authors for their dedication to the task. I'm pleased to confirm that I've already begun work in this arena, and to that end, I met with our senior immigration officers on the 22nd of July 2024 to get a better understanding of the issues in our borough. In tandem with that meeting, I asked our officers to look at many of the various issues and challenges that you describe, which we have also identified as barriers to integration. Officers from within the Communities Directorate are currently collating up-to-date qualitative and quantitative data from a variety of sources and partners, so we may better understand the current context and how this impacts Boston. An officer working group has been created to understand what the data is telling us, so we may decide what we can do to further support all of our communities and formulate a plan as appropriate. Further updates will be forthcoming. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Doreen. Do you have a supplementary question, Councillor Gilbert?
Yeah, very briefly, I'm very heartened to hear that and very pleased that that the leader's taken this issue very seriously. It does affect everybody in the town and the borough. In respect of further updates, I just wonder whether the leader could clarify how those further updates will be delivered to elected members. Thank you.
Councillor Doreen, do you wish to respond?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess it will really depend on what comes forward, Councillor Gilbert. The information that comes forward from the officer working group, that qualitative and quantitative data is going to be really important for us to decide how we're going to move this forward. I'm extremely conscious that the good work that Councillor Gleeson did in 2012, I think it was, around about that time, was then kind of left on the shelf. A number, 28 recommendations were made, which were based on a local, regional, national and European level, were then not taken forward. I think the previous administration or the previous administration thought it was too expensive. I don't want to set hairs running, if you will, and get people's hopes up. I want to manage expectations because we're very conscious of the budget constraints that we're working within. So to how and when we're going to update you, I can't honestly say at this moment in time, but I can assure you that everything relevant will come through to you in an appropriate way, either through a scrutiny paper perhaps, or feedback to this full council, if that's okay. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Well,
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Butler, our waste and cleaning teams do a fantastic job in the borough. However, recently parish councils in the 5 villages ward have complained to me about mud building up between pavement curbs and the road. How often is this cleaned by the council?
Councillor Butler, would you like to respond?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And again, I thank Councillor Campwell for notice of his question. We are classed as the principal litter authority under Section 89 Environmental Protection Act 1990, and we have a duty to deal with litter and refuse on highway. My assumption is that you are referring to detritus rather than mud, and I can therefore confirm that for litter, refuse and detritus located between a curb edge and the road, our mechanical sweepers are deployed regularly throughout the borough and we sweep villages once per quarter. However, if you are referring to mud on a road, then that does not fall within this category. As a council, we are not responsible for the clean-up. This sits with Lincolnshire County Council as the Highways Authority, and further details can be found using the www.boston.gov.uk/mud on roads. Thank you.
Do you have a supplementary question, Councillor Cantwell?
I do, Madam Mayor. On the 15th of May, I contacted officers regarding the build-up of detritus in Sutton Village. I asked, is there a rota of when villages are usually have their cleaning each quarter that I can pass on to my parish councils? And also, does our cleaning align with Lincolnshire County Council spraying the reeds along roads? The answer from the officers was we didn't have a rota which we can provide to parish councillors, and sweeping does not align with Lincolnshire County Council spraying the reeds. Is this still true? And if so, can we develop a rota to give to parish councils to provide certainty and coordinate with Lincolnshire County Council going forward?
Councillor Butler, do you want to respond to that?
Thank you again, Councillor Campwell. I don't have the information on the to the top of my head, but I will find that out for you and get back to you in due course. Thank you.
Do apologise. Councillor Cantwell, can the leader please update us on the work the council? Would you like to do this, Councillor Doran? The next question. Sorry, Councillor Cantwell. I'm sorry. Question to Councillor Andorin from Councillor James Cantwell. We've got rather a lot of questions tonight.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Can the leader please update us on what work the council is doing to address antisocial behaviour in the town?
A contract. Councillor Doran, would you like to respond?
Yes, Madam Mayor, and I know how it feels. You're doing just fine. I thank Councillor Cantwell for notice of his question. Within the community safety team of the council, we have a number of measures and activities to address antisocial behaviour issues in the town centre. Paul Carville is the Antisocial Behaviour Officer for the council and works closely with a number of partner agencies, including Lincolnshire Police, Neighbourhood Policing Team, housing associations, families working together, drug and alcohol teams, and many others to address any ASB issues reported to either this council ASB team directly or via Lincolnshire Police. The council adhere to the county-wide incremental approach policy in dealing with ASB policy and procedures and administer on behalf of both the council and police a number of enforcement measures, which include ASB advice letters, ASB warning letters, acceptable behaviour agreements for young people, community protection notices and civil injunctions, which are heard at court. CCTV also plays a key and important part of addressing both ASB and crime within the town centre or any area covered by our local authority CCTV cameras, and they provide excellent intelligence and evidence of what is happening and who's doing what, both day and night. This intelligence and evidence is used by Paul and policing colleagues to increase hotspot patrolling in key areas and deal with individuals or groups causing issues within our town. We also currently have 2 community rangers providing high visibility patrols within the town centre every afternoon and evening between Tuesday and Saturday, providing a visible presence for our residents and visitors and to deal with any ASB they come across or are directed to deal with via our CCTV colleagues. The Rangers are also dealing with any issues relating to the consumption of alcohol within the designated zone of the Council's PSPO order. There are a number of enforcement actions similar to the ASB incremental approach actions that the Rangers, who are supported by Paul, deal with on behalf of the Council. They have already proven in the short time they've been patrolling the town centre that they are really making a difference. Every year, the Community Safety Manager and the CCTV Manager and the local police inspector produce an annual crime and disorder scrutiny report, which highlights all the work completed in the previous financial year, which includes statistics and updates on ASB enforcement letters, CCTV stats, PSPO alcohol enforcement, and our recently adopted new process for dealing with issues relating to residential noxious odours. I would recommend that elected members find this year's Crime and Disorder Scrutiny Report to update themselves on the work of our community safety team. Importantly, though, we can only help to address issues of ASB if they're either reported to us or the police, and we encourage any elected member or resident to report any issues. We can only help if we are first made aware of any issues. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Dorian. Councillor Cantwell, do you have a supplementary question?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Dorian. There's no supplementary.
Question number 4, question to Councillor Anne Dorian from Councillor Claire Rylott. Thank you, Councillor Rylott.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Leader, are the BBC making a presentation to Mr Neil Kempster in recognition for his services as Chairman of Boston Town Deal over the last 4 years?
Councillor Dorian, would you like to respond?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I thank Councillor Rylott for notice of her question. And the answer is no.
Question number 5 to Councillor Anne Dorian from Councillor Rylott.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Leader, what is your view on the pylon proposal that will have a massive impact on our countryside?
Councillor Dorian, would you like to respond?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I thank Councillor Rylott again for notice of her question. The administration recognises the national importance of major energy projects like this to help improve our infrastructure and tackle the energy crisis we are currently seeing, as well as to create greater grid capacity and investment opportunities in our own sub-region. The major impact these plans could have on our communities and environment, however, cannot be ignored, and we are pleased to see consultation taking place in these early stages to receive feedback before any further steps are taken. We hope that we can continue to be actively involved in any future plans and that all possible alternative options and views are considered, including the possibility of underground installation. The greater cost of this compared to overhead pylons must be weighed by National Grid against the need to protect our environment, the amenity of our residents and communities, and the devastating impact the proposals threaten to have on a £500 million local tourism industry. It is important that all available steps are taken to help minimise the impact on our residents and businesses and protect the unique character of South and East Lincolnshire. Most importantly, we would encourage everyone with an interest or an opinion to get involved. Make sure they attend the online or in-person events and provide their thoughts to ensure that our voice is heard on this significant project. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Rylott, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Madam Leader. My joint scrutiny meeting has failed. National Grid appear to have gone to ground, metaphorically speaking. I persistently receive correspondence from concerned residents over the pylon proposal. National Grid's proposal to erect 420 pylons around 50 metres high through the Lincolnshire countryside to feed other counties with electricity will have a massive detrimental impact on our countryside, not only putting farmland under strain, but also downvaluing residential properties within the vicinity of one of these pylons. 7,300 responses have been received from the non-statutory consultation. I wonder how many of these were positive. Lincs County Council have expressed their concerns over the proposal. They are now objecting to the way the scoping consultation has been carried out and say a legal challenge is more likely than ever. Planning Act B 2024-0316, EIA scoping notification and consultation. 2 p.m. today, 8 parish councils and 4 borough councillors have commented online. It has been mooted that Boston Borough Council have been very quiet on the matter when it will have a massive impact on our borough. Do you not think collectively we should be more vociferous on this matter?
Councillor Doreen, do you wish to respond?
I don't know where you're getting your information from, Councillor Rylott, but this administration released a public statement. We sent it to the National Grid. We were very vociferous in our concerns around their plans. So I don't know where you're getting your information from. I would caution you not to listen to rumour and speculation. If you want to know the answer, just come and ask me. Could we be more vociferous? We will take every opportunity at every turn to engage with National Grid. I appreciate the fact that you're upset and angered, as you should be, that they've refused to come to your scrutiny meeting. However, I have reached out to them as leader of the council and believe that they are willing to engage in an all-member briefing, which, whilst isn't specifically an opportunity to scrutinise their plans in public, is better than nothing at this early stage. I think we've got a long way to go, and I think we also have to recognise that at the end of the day, vociferous as we may be, it's government who are going to make this decision, and their early start out the door isn't looking particularly positive for national infrastructure projects, I'm sad to say. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Doreen. Question number 6. This is a question to Councillor John Baxter from Councillor David Brown. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Baxter, would you please clarify the situation regarding the homeless in Boston and surrounding areas? Given that the government is releasing early prisoners, will this now make the situation worse? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Councillor Baxter, do you wish to respond?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and good evening, councillors. I thank Councillor Brown for notice of his question. There are not expected to be many prisoners released early who will be returning to Boston without anywhere to live. The council's housing service works closely with the prison and also the probation service, who will inform our council of anyone who is likely to be homeless upon release, including any early releases. Such cases would also be discussed at the fortnightly multi-agency meetings which are attended by the council. Releasing people early could potentially reduce the amount of time available to find them somewhere to live. However, the prison and probation service does have access to some accommodation that can be accessed straight from prison. If any rooms were available, this would then provide more time for the council to find a longer-term housing solution. The council would provide advice and assistance to prison leavers about their housing options, such as social housing, privately rented and hostel accommodation. The council would only have a duty to provide temporary accommodation upon release if the prison leaver was classed to be in priority need under the homeless persons legislation. This could be where they are considered less able to cope with being homeless than the average person. If they were not entitled to temporary accommodation, they would need to try and stay with family and friends temporarily. If a prison leaver did find themselves having to sleep rough, the council's rough sleeping team would support them to access services and accommodation. It is important to note that not all prisoners were automatically eligible for release under this legislation, and a number of offences were excluded from the 40% tariff, meaning that prisoners would need to serve a minimum of 50% of the sentence. I will send a full list in an email, but in summary, the following offences are excluded: sexual offences, violent offences which have attracted 4 years or more sentence, stalking offences, coercive and controlling behaviour offences, domestic violence offences and terrorism offences. Thank you, Mayor. Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Baxter. Councillor Brown, do you have a supplementary question?
I do indeed, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Councillor Baxter, thank you for answering my question. What would you do in the case of some of these homeless people are stubborn? They won't move. They're fiercely independent. What will you do in that case?
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Councillor Baxter, do you wish to respond?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor, and thanks, Councillor Brown, for the supplementary question. I presume then when you say homeless people, you mean people who are sleeping rough. Yeah. If I could just mention, obviously, this has recently been very topical, and through my emails to members and also communications on the BB site, hopefully you understand it can be very difficult. We don't operate the Vacancy Act anymore in this country. What happens though is obviously these people, I'll give you an example, the lady who was in the William Brown estate agent's window, the Presso, she didn't want to cooperate and wouldn't consent to share. But our outreach team visited every day, made sure she was okay, talked to the NHS staff, the police, and gradually she was persuaded to move. Often these people have addiction problems and obviously sometimes have mental illnesses where we have to work very hard. I would say that the outreach team are very patient. We talked to the police if there was an antisocial behaviour problem, but obviously eventually the lady got moved and also the gentleman from Reboss Doorway. So thank you for your question. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Baxter. Question number 7. Question to Councillor John Baxter from Councillor Stephen Woodliff. Councillor Woodliff.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Right, Councillor Baxter. You partly answered this anyway, I think, actually. But anyway, I am sure that most of our residents and visitors to our borough will be pleased to see that the Borough Council is planning to tackle the bird menace in the town centre. The mess created by the pigeon population in particular undermines the efforts of this council to attract visitors to our town centre. However, vagrancy within our town centre presents a more serious issue. What do you intend to take? What action do you intend to take to rid the town centre of people sleeping in doorways and others who accost shoppers demanding money to feed themselves? Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Councillor Woodliff. Councillor Baxter, would you like to respond?
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Councillor Woodliff, for notice of his question. The council's rough sleeping team regularly engage with people who are sleeping rough in Boston, with the aim of helping them into accommodation. This does require engagement from the rough sleeper, but some continually refuse, making it very difficult to help them. In some cases, these people have complex needs, mental health issues or difficulties with substance abuse, so our officers are not just resolving what could be considered to be straightforward housing matters. The council will continue to encourage them to engage and ensure they know how to access help when ready to do so. Any unacceptable behaviour associated with rough sleeping will be dealt with jointly by the council, police and other partner agencies. This could include antisocial behaviour warning letters, community protection notices and civil injunctions, as well as trying to overcome the core reason for the unacceptable behaviour. Not all people who beg are rough sleepers, and any such activity should be reported to the police. I'm sorry to report that rough sleeping is increasing both in Boston and nationally. And without significant government investment, people will continue to sleep rough in our town. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Baxter. Councillor Wood, if you have your supplementary question. Thank you.
Yes, Madam Mayor. As part of Operation Plotting, which has been initiated by the Neighbourhood Policing Team and Boston Borough Council, and which aims to reduce crime and antisocial behaviour and the fear of crime, 2 community wardens have been employed at Boston Borough Council to enhance the visibility of the hotspot locations tackling SB. This comes, by the way, from the delivery of the Police and Crime Plan, which actually is in discussion with the Police and Crime Commissioner. Apparently, there is an effective partnership in place with Boston Borough Council around tackling antisocial behaviour and criminality in the hotspots. The PCC, Mark Jones, has received £1 million from the Home Office funding to provide additional high visibility hotspot patrols on foot. Purpose is to tackle antisocial behaviour and serious violence and engage and reassure the public in 12 identified hotspots across Lincolnshire, including Boston. In mid-July, there have been over 200 hours of patrolling but only 4 arrests, 4 stop and searches, and 1 use of ASB. The question is, do you believe that our residents are satisfied that the police are doing all they can to support our borough council in tackling antisocial behaviour and vagrancy in particular? Right. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Woodliff. Councillor Baxter, do you wish to respond?
If I could, Madam Mayor,
Yes, of
thank you.
course.
So thank you, Councillor Woodliff, for your supplementary question. I think we've already answered some of the points that you raised, and especially Councillor Dorian on question 3. She covered the measures and activities to address antisocial behaviour in the town centre. I feel as a council, we have excellent communications with our local police. As you say, our community wardens work in partnership with the police, and I think they provide visibility in hotspot patrols on foot. I appreciate the statistics you quote, they seem quite low, but in my opinion, they don't necessarily show the full picture. By walking around, the police and wardens hopefully prevent the antisocial behaviour actually happening. Also, just to mention, this scheme has been in operation for a while, and obviously will be reviewed. So, as I mentioned before, I hope the recent posts on the BBC Facebook site and my emails to all members have explained the complexities of dealing with people sleeping rough and moving them on. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you so much, Councillor Baxter. Question number 8. Again, this is a question from Councillor Woodliff to Councillor Dorian. Councillor Woodliff, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Last year, a group of travellers arrived in our town, taking over the car park on Tunnard Street. We saw on television a shop being robbed of its stock, and we know that the council had to pay for the clear-up after they departed. To quote our council's website, Lincolnshire Police received several reports on the evening of Tuesday, the 22nd of August 2023, that people were causing issues with businesses in and around the town centre. The majority of these reports were around harassment and verbal abuse. At the time, the police said they would pursue charges and prosecute, but we haven't heard anything since. We have heard nothing since. What actions have you taken to pursue both the police and Lincolnshire County Council to hold those members of the travelling community responsible for criminal behaviour, to account? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Wood. Councillor Dorian, would you like to respond?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I thank Councillor Woodliff for notice of his question. As leader and portfolio holder for community safety, I was in regular dialogue with our community safety officers, our senior leadership team and police officers throughout the illegal encampment on Tunnard Street car park last August. That's a year ago. Not August just gone, August 2023. Through effective joint working, the illegal encampment was moved on within 48 hours of the first report received. Council officers, in collaboration with the local policing team, used all of their available legal powers to deal swiftly with the incident, with mutual aid provided by police forces in the East Midlands. When this same group landed in Peterborough the week before the incident in Boston, it took Peterborough City Council and the police 6 days to move them on. When we moved the group on from Tunnard Street car park, they were served with a county-wide order to leave Lincolnshire and were escorted by the police to the Lincolnshire border. The car park was restored to full working order within 90 minutes of the travellers leaving the site. Our objective and overriding priority was to remove this group from our community as soon as physically possible. Following this incursion, I had a debriefing session with Superintendent Pat Coates, along with our senior officers, where we had a frank and forthright discussion and a sharing of views. It is extremely important that we support our partner organisations, and I was delighted with their swift issuing of the Section 61 notice at that time, because it had a major impact in resolving the matter quickly. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you indeed, Councillor Dorian. Councillor Woodliff, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, Madam Mayor. I've already supplied it to Councillor Dorian anyway, but I want to make a slight alteration. I think it's a very good answer, a thorough answer, but I'm concerned about the shopkeepers and the people who suffered as a result. And moving them on is one issue. And my question to Councillor Dorian is, do you agree with me that the prevention of further incidents is closely linked to timely prosecutions? I'm thinking particularly the people who robbed the shops. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Woodley. Councillor Dorian, do you wish to respond to this?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Woodley, for giving me notice of your supplementary. It is a kind gesture that not many elected members replicate, but I appreciated it. However, my answer is no. I don't necessarily agree with you that further incidents are linked to timely prosecutions. And I say that for two reasons. The first reason is this, is that we've had no further incidents. Regardless of what prosecutions did or did not take place of the people involved. And secondly, and this is anecdotal, it's not based on any real fact or data that I have at my fingertips, but anecdotally we were made aware at the time that the kind of modus operandi, if you will, the MO of that community was to send children in to wreak havoc in most of these business premises. And as we know from our work in other arenas, the police are quite rightly very, very reluctant to lock up children, to put children in cells, to arrest children, fingerprint children, take mugshots of children and then lock them up, because it's very, very difficult to take that process through to its conclusion. And I know that a number of children were then de-arrested very quickly after being arrested. So I'm not sure there's anything to gain, in all honesty with you, Councillor Woodliffe, in the prosecution of children. I think there are better and other ways that we can hope to rehabilitate those members of that community. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Dorian. Question number 9, question from Councillor Woodliffe to Councillor Dorian again. Thank you.
I apologise, Madam Mayor. Right. Under the previous Conservative Party government, a highly controversial devolution deal was agreed between the leaders of the County Council and the 2 adjoining Greater Lincolnshire Unitary Councils, which effectively excluded the district councils from participating in the initiative. However, the general election stalled the approval process. Given the lack of public support for the deal and given the new government's intentions to revise the process, what actions are you planning to take to improve Boston's influence on any revision of the deal? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Woodliffe. Councillor Dorian, do you wish to respond?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you again, Councillor Woodliffe, for notice of your question. So in August this year, last month really, along with the leaders of Lincolnshire's other district councils, I wrote to the Deputy Prime Minister, Angela Rayner, to make 2 points. Point number 1, to request that in the emerging English devolution bill, it is made a requirement for all councils to be full constituent members of combined county authorities in order that we can fully input into the decisions that impact the communities we serve. As members will be aware, under current governance arrangements, we are non-constituent members with limited ability to influence, and this isn't acceptable. Point 2, I requested that government take note of the Lincolnshire Vision 2050 document, which sets out the shared ambition of councils over the next 25 years, and that the ambition in that document needs to be matched by the government in devolving sufficient powers and resources to enable us to deliver. In addition to the collective letter, I also sent my own letter as leader of this council. I hope this demonstrates that I continue to lobby government on this matter along with other district councils. And although if council would allow me and you would allow me, Madam Mayor, we've had a letter today updating us that we will certainly not be given constituent recognition on the devolution deal.
Thank you, Councillor Dorian. Councillor Woodliffe, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, Madam Mayor, and stand up. Right. Following on from that one, I suppose, following off as best we can. What actions, if any, are being taken with the other two councils in our partnership to approach Her Majesty's government for a new, better devolution deal?
Lord, if Councillor Doran, are you able to respond?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you again for notice of requesting Councillor Woodliff. For the sake of expediency, would you mind if I give you a written answer? Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Question number 10. A question to Councillor Sandeep Ghosh from Councillor Stuart Evans. Thank you, Councillor Evans.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question for Councillor Ghosh. Within the BBC budget statement from the 4th of March 2024, there was an efficiency target of £172,000. How are Boston Borough Council progressing towards this target, and in what areas are the savings being achieved?
Thank you, Councillor Evans. Councillor Ghosh, would you like to respond?
Yes, Madam Mayor, indeed. Thank you for asking this question, Councillor Evans. Loads of questions this evening. I'm happy to answer this, as I assume there is some misinformation spread around efficiency target and also put on Facebook. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to explain this. For the purpose of supporting the efficiency targets in the 24-25 budget, a savings and transformation program was developed. We developed a multi-year plan to support the medium-term financial strategy over the longer term. Of the general requirement for efficiency savings of £172,000, we have already achieved £142,000 to date, which is 83% of the efficiency at Q1. Here I had not included the IDB cost. Now, for both the general and IDB savings requirements, the total achieved so far is £573,000 against the target of £846,000, being 68% at Q1. This is very positive and work is ongoing. Here we got the 431,000 support towards IDB by the government. To provide some assurance, the main components of the plan for 24-25 to support the savings target were procurement savings, service review efficiencies, changes to services to increase income or decrease costs to the council by changing how we work and how our partners work may impact our budget, and keep lobbying the government for getting maximum help towards the IDB levy. Other savings and efficiencies are also being developed and proactively monitored monthly. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ghosh. Councillor Evans, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Ghosh, for that comprehensive reply. Can you also please just assure the people of Boston that services will not be reduced as a consequence of these efficiency savings?
Thank you, Councillor Evans. Councillor Ghosh, do you wish to respond?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Indeed, I already mentioned a couple of times in my previous reports, this is not going to be the case. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ghosh. Item number G, agenda item G. Are there any questions from the members of the public?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm pleased to say there are none this evening.
And so am I. Right. So we will now move to the agenda items for this evening. The first being Audit and Governance Committee. Can I ask Councillor Pierpoint to present the minutes?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Members of the Council, I present the Audit and Governance Committee meetings for your noting. Thank you.
The minutes are for the council to note only, so everyone who was content, we will move on to the next item. Thank you, council. Right, outturn report. So the second item on tonight's agenda is the outturn report 2022-23, abbreviated outturn. Can I ask Councillor Ghosh to introduce the report, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report presenting the financial outturn for the fourth quarter, along with the summary outturn for 22-23, has previously been presented to Cabinet on 24 July 24. This final report for 23-24 provides information on the full year financial performance as of March 31, 24, and a short summary of the 22-23 outturn position. The draft statement of accounts for 23-24 has been finalized and was published on May 30, 24, in line with the regulatory requirements. I am proud to inform the Council of the fact that in the UK, only 31 councils successfully released their draft statements of accounts for the 23-24 fiscal year by the statutory deadline of May 31, 24, of which we are one. Furthermore, the audited 22-23 statement of accounts has also received the necessary external audit sign-off by Mazars, our previous auditors, and the final revenue position for 22-23 was a surplus of £155,000. The council are asked to note that as of March 31, 24, our general fund outturn position reflects an underspend of £458,000, which was an improvement from the £162,000 reported in Q3. While our services faced budget pressures primarily due to the inflationary environment, especially in terms of payroll, we managed to offset these challenges. Additional investment income driven by favorable interest rates played a crucial role. Now, the savings target, when crafting our budget, we made assumptions regarding inflation pressures, mainly related to pay, fuel, power, and support for IDB costs. Our prudent approach allowed us to offset unutilized budgets against our savings target. I am pleased to report that we achieved £575,000 in savings against the target of 664,000, which is 86.6%, a testament to our prudent budgeting and financial management. About reserves, as of March 31, 24, our general fund specific reserves stand at £13.2 million. The general fund reserves balance remains stable at £2 million. You can find detailed figures in Appendix A, Table 4. Regarding capital expenditure general fund, as shown in Appendix A, Table 5A, our revised capital program budget for 23-24 was £8.6 million. Actual capital expenditure totaled £5.93 million. Now, looking back at 22-23 outturn position as summarized in Appendix B. Please note that this is an abbreviated report as many aspects of the 22-23 outturn have been dealt with through the previous financial report process. The revenue outturn at March 31, 23 was an underspend of £156,000 as detailed in Table 1 of Appendix B. The specific and general reserves balances stood at £14.1 million as of March 31, 23. At the end of Q4, capital spending reached £3.7 million against a full year budget of £6.4 million. Slippages from 22-23 were added to the 23-24 program as part of the Q1 finance report through the full council approval. As I conclude this presentation, I am pleased to put forward proposing and seconding the reported recommendations based on our financial performance and prudent management. Madam Mayor, I therefore propose that Council approve the recommendations as set out in the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ghosh. Is there a seconder, and would you like to reserve the right to speak? Councillor Ghosh. Thank you, Councillor Dorian.
Yes, I'm happy to second the recommendations, Madam Mayor, and I reserve the right to speak. Thank you.
Are there any speakers on this item? Councillor Gleeson.
Oh, this makes really good reading. When lots of councils are facing Section 114 situations to actually complete a year, where I think we can take pride in some of the events we've been able to organise in the town and the total change of feeling that has been achieved. That yeah, we've managed to end that, and we're not gone bankrupt as well. So that's quite impressive. Yeah, so this is quite good. And so I'm now going to seem really churlish. I don't like the way the report's laid out. This is an outward-facing document, and we've got the column towards the right, which has a commentary not really in English that spreads all the math over. And I do think we should look at some way of actually just showing the more succinct figures first, so that people who don't really want to try and make sense of the rest can do that. Because again, this is it's a good report. It's something that people should be reading. And I do think its layout actually just, turns people off a little bit. So just something for future thought. But I congratulate Councillor Ghost on the excellent work. Maybe for the first time we've got a councillor who can have. So well done. And and I think though, because across this council, I think we've all felt that there is a better way, and we do see it.
Thank you, Councillor Gleeson. Anybody else wish to speak? Councillor Woodliff, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would agree with what my colleague Councillor Gleeson said. I think these reports are often very difficult to fathom through by a mathematician. Of course, I should be happy with it, but I'm not. I was going to say one point. I think it's a good report, but there is a warning in here, I think, about the PSPS contract price was in excess of budget by £114,000. I think we need to watch that moving forward, because I think that's an area where we may find that our plans can become, derailed by that. So apart from everything else, I think that it's a good report. You've also done a very good job here, and so has Councillor Ghosh as well. I may praise him for that. Good report, but we have to keep our eyes open to what might be around the corner there. Okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Goodif. Anybody else wishing to speak? Councillor Bedford, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I've looked through this, and congratulations on putting it all together. I know you won't be able to answer this question in public tonight, or reference, should I say. Could you please let me know, because I can't find it anywhere, the returns on our corporation farm, either in pounds and pence or percentage return, please?
Thank you, Councillor Bedford. Councillor Gosh, do you wish to
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
sum up and answer the question?
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Gleeson, for the nice words. Definitely points noted. I'll try to make a more summarized form next time with less numbers, too easy to understand. Thank you, Councillor Woodliff. Indeed, financial budget always comes with a risk. The only thing is that how we mitigate that, so that there the game is. And I can assure you that as you mentioned, keeping our eyes open, I can assure I'm definitely not sleeping. So, and thanks for your nice words. And thanks, Councillor Bedford. I'm going to look into that. We can probably, talk offline. Thank you.
Councillor Doran, did you wish to say something?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. The risk of not sparing Councillor Ghosh's blushes, I too am really heartened by your words. We've got wise, experienced councillors in the opposition who've sung your praises. And I just want to highlight to Council, Madam Mayor, that Councillor Ghosh takes his duties extremely seriously. He can add up and do take away as well. And he works extremely hard at his portfolio, and I think we're really lucky to have him. So well done, Councillor Ghosh. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move to the vote. All in favour? Anyone against? I don't know. Was it an against from you, Councillor Cantwell? Was it an against from you or a for?
No, I did.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Thank you. And any abstentions? I don't think so, were there? Thank you. That's clearly carried. Thank you. Item on tonight's agenda is the annual Treasurer Report 2023-24. Councillor Ghosh, can I ask you again to introduce this report, please?
Surely, Madam Mayor. I present for Council's consideration the annual Treasury Management Review for 23-24. This council is required to produce an annual Treasury Management Review of activities and the actual prudential and treasury indicators for 23-24. This report was considered by Audit and Governance on 8/7/24. In addition to this report, the Audit and Governance Committee has received quarterly updates throughout the financial year. As set out in Section 2, Capital Expenditure and Financing 23-24, page 58, the approved budget for capital expenditure for 23-24 was 8.6 million and actual expenditure was 5.9 million pounds. A full breakdown of capital expenditure is shown in Appendix A1 at the end of the report. In summary, the council's underlying need to borrow for capital expenditure in 23-24 increased by 1.2 million pounds to 18.4 million pounds, mainly IT equipment and local authority housing fund expenditure. On 31st March 24, investments totaled 44.5 million and external borrowing was 1 million. Interest rate started the year at 4.25% and ended the year at 5.25%, which is a positive for now. The overall rate of return achieved on investments in the year was 4.81%. Of note for the year was the council prematurely repaying its 15.4 million pound borrowing with PWLB in October at discount of 6.4 million pounds, resulting in an actual payment of 9 million pounds. Very positively, the outturn for investment income, discount for debt redemption and borrowing cost for the year was 3.19 million pounds compared to the original budget of 0.97 million, a favorable variance of 2.2 million pounds. With regards to the council's property fund investment, capital values fell by 823,000 pounds during the year and dividend distributions averaged 4.13%. The tables on page 71 through 73 provide detailed information relating to the property fund investments. In conclusion, I recommend that Council approve the 23-24 Treasury Annual Report attached to Appendix A. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ghosh. Is there a seconder, and would you like to reserve the right to speak, Councillor Ghosh? Councillor Dorian, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I second and reserve the right to speak.
Are there any speakers on this? Councillor Gleeson, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Hidden within this report is the really brilliant work by our officers in paying off the loan. But I don't think we have made enough of that. You know, we made, because of their diligence, the equivalent of £6 million odd pounds. That is going to make a world of difference this council as we go forward. I did support the loan when it first was introduced from the council, although with hindsight, I think it was a bit of a con. But for us, it has worked out. And, you know, I really do think, you know, our officers, yeah, they really was clever. Because had they missed that, we'd still be sitting there with the 18 odd million, plus the 1 million bonded State Street loan. So that's the first bit. I think you know, it's just in there as a sort of fact, which it is. But you know, what is going to be very important over the next few years. And then the next thing is, I'm, for my sins, a member of Audit and Governance. And the report on our investments is one of the few reports that I understand with this report. The officers dealing with this, they have that art of explaining at a level that makes sense. They put an awful lot of work into this to ensure that we do see that extra money we need to provide the services the council wants to do. So I do think they do need congratulating on that, because you know, it's this sort of, it just seems a relatively ordinary thing. We just get this report, oh, we got 5% on this. But if they weren't as good and as diligent, we wouldn't be seeing that surplus that we get from them that again enables us to do things. So, you know, from this, what seems a very mundane report is actually one of the really best ones we do.
Thank you, Councillor Gleeson. Any other speakers? Councillor Gus, would you like to sum up?
Thank you, Councillor Gleeson, once again for the nice words. I will say that I will give the full credit to my team, showing the very good work. So thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move to the vote. Are those in favour? Any against? No. And no abstentions. Thank you. Clearly carried. The final item on tonight's agenda is the South and East Council's Partnership Performance Report. Can I ask Councillor Dorian to introduce this report? Thank you, Councillor Dorian.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The recommendations in this report are just for noting. This is the regular 6-monthly update on partnership performance. The last report was in March this year. So I'll take you through. Section 2 provides an update on this year's alignment and delivery plan. The majority of actions are already complete or on plan. Mitigations are in place for any actions that are off plan, and this is being closely managed by the Assistant Director Leads. There is an update on external funding in paragraph 2.3. You'll find that on page 78. And financial efficiencies in paragraph 2.4, again on page 78. Section 3 updates on the LGA Peer Challenge. The peers visited Boston in May. Of the 28 recommendations, 26 are already complete or on plan. And where a recommendation is off plan in terms of delivery, mitigations are in place. The follow-up visit will take place around May 2025. Section 4, which begins at the bottom of page 80, provides updates on the priority boards for growth, health, safer communities and environment, with details of work undertaken in the last 6 months there for your information. Finally, section 5, which begins on page 86, updates on the work of partnership scrutiny. The final report for 2023 was presented to Council and to Joint Scrutiny Board with 4 recommendations around ICT, communication, capacity and alignment. All actions are complete or on plan. Work is underway on the 3rd joint scrutiny of the partnership. This will come forward for consideration later in the year. Overall, Madam Mayor, significant progress has again been made over the last 6 months since our previous report. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Dorian, is there a seconder? And do you wish to reserve the right to speak?
Happy to second, Madam Mayor, but I don't want to reserve my right to speak. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any speakers on this item? Councillor Woodliff.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. By and large, support the report. It's a good report. The only thing I would say I noticed, of course, is that blue line on page 79, which is a savings tracker, isn't it? Cashable and non-cashable. And I noticed from what it says on 2.5, blue line on the graph shows a target in the partnership's business case. The orange bars show where the partnership is against that target. This shows the partnership already on track to achieve the efficiency savings up to 25-26. Of course, the blue line goes up, doesn't it? And the orange bars rather tail off. We're going to might have a problem coming up. We don't think about it now, but what happens in 27, 28, 29, and 30, always assuming we are here, of course. I think that's the one area I think perhaps I want to pick out. Apart from that, it's a good report. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Woodliff, thank you. Any other speakers? Councillor Doreen, do you wish to sum up?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll be quick. Yeah, it's a good point you raised, Councillor Woodliff, and it's one that I've made myself when I've talked to the other two leaders. That blue line was set by us, set by council, so it can be changed if we feel it needs to be. You know, I've thought before that, you know, in order to, so let me backtrack. I've heard members in the opposition complain about access to officers. I've heard, or the lack of access to officers. I've heard my own group concerned about capacity within our officer corps. And so in taking all those views on board, there might come a day when we say, well, actually, we want to give our chief executive more bandwidth. We want to give our chief executive more budget to play with in terms of staffing. So we're going to move the blue line. That blue line was set up, I believe, at 6% of the budgets. Is that right? Yeah. And so it's up to us. At some point in the future, if we decide we can't hit that target, or more importantly, we think it's inappropriate to try and hit that target because there's no more meat on the bone, then we can move it. That's all I say. I think we can anyway. We'll have to convince the other two first. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
And it is not moved and seconded by the proposer and seconder, it shall, unless postponed by consent of the meeting, be treated as withdrawn and shall not be moved with fresh notice, without fresh notice. Can I ask Councillor Cantwell to introduce the first motion, please? Thank you, Councillor Cantwell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to propose the rural strategy motion to full council, that this council resolves to bring forward a council-led rural strategy similar in format to the Boston Town Centre Strategy and Action Plan 23 to 27 within 1 year of the 16th of September 2024, and that Boston Borough Council create this strategy in consultation with borough councillors, parish councils, relevant rural voluntary and residents groups, and rural residents on issues/actions in this community. After working with 5 parish councils in my ward, it's clear to see that many of the issues rural communities face are identical to each other. I am sure all 18 of our parish councils have had the same conversations at their meetings as we do in the 5 Villages ward. Many times, Councillor Brown and I have gone to various meetings with voluntary groups in our area, and they too pick up on these issues. While each parish and group have some of their own ways to combat shared issues, it is clear that these issues exist borough-wide, and there must be a borough-wide response. This strategy would allow the Borough Council to bring these scattered groups and communities together to create a document that would allow us in some way to address the multitude of issues in our rural wards. This motion tonight is not meant to give me a speech where I can go through every issue I'm concerned, but it will create a meaningful document that we can all knock our heads together on shared issues. The reason I have taken this to full council and not began at a scrutiny level is because I feel this piece of work needs to be given a strong mandate by this council to show our residents that we raise this at the most important meeting our council holds, and it was discussed and hopefully agreed. The administration achieved the creation of the town centre strategy within 6 months. This strategy will be given a year to develop, so different stakeholders can voice their views. Whether this work begins at a big round table, a survey, a working group from a scrutiny committee, we need to make sure tonight that we begin this undertaking. Madam Mayor, let's make Boston Council that unifying linchpin for our rural communities and do what we can for our borough. I appreciate that not every issue will easily be resolved, At the very least, we can show our communities we are listening to them. My thanks to Councillor Rylott for seconding this motion and Councillors Evans, Danny and Brown for supporting it tonight. Thank you also to the other councillors who gave their thoughts and views on this. And with that, Madam Mayor, I move this motion.
Councillor Evans, as seconder, would you like to reserve the right to speak?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Yep, I fully second this motion.
Are there any speakers on this item? Councillor Doreen, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just in the interest of probity, I thought the seconder was Councillor Rylott, and I thought you read out the. It's the wrong way round. It's in the minutes. So could we have a ruling on that, please, with the Deputy Monitoring Officer? Because you read out quite rightly from the Constitution, Madam Mayor, that it's got to be proposed and seconded by the people named on it. So I'll sit down.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm advised it is Councillor Rylott that's the seconder, and in fact your paper is incorrect this evening.
Rylott, I do apologise. Can I ask you to second this, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
And do you wish to reserve the right to speak later?
And I will second it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So can I continue?
Yes, of course you can.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to move an amendment, Madam Mayor, and my amendment is that I would like to refer this motion to Cabinet for consideration. Thank you.
Now have a seconder for Councillor Doreen's amendment. Councillor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm very happy to second this motion.
Does anybody now wish to speak on the amendment? Yes, Councillor Gleeson.
My view is actually this should go to scrutiny. The motion actually is setting a time limit on full council, which I don't think we should really pass anyway. Not the amendment, the original motion. And it actually contains no details of what these issues are. And so I do think actually it should be considered by a scrutiny committee, which any member can come to the relevant scrutiny committee and ask for them to look into a matter. And so I just do feel it should go. It shouldn't be. I will oppose the first amendment or the motion. But I think that is actually flawed. But I do think it actually should go to scrutiny. I suppose if it goes to cabinet, cabinet could decide to send it to scrutiny. So it's neither here nor there, really.
Thank you, Councillor Gleeson. I believe now Councillor Woodliff would like to speak on the motion, amendment.
Well, I'm not sure what I'm speaking on, but whatever it is, that I think that Councillor Gleeson's correct. I feel really that it's not appropriate for full council to direct the cabinet. I think that's the wrong way round. Not normal for the full council to require cabinet to do something. Normally, cabinet has powers to decide what it wants to do under the constitution. It's only a certain amount of matters that come before full council. I agree with Councillor Gleeson that it should go to scrutiny first, and then it should go to cabinet. And then if there's a budgetary consideration, it should then come to full council. I think that's the way it should be, really. I think we should do everything we can to support the parish councils. Without a doubt, they need all our support, but we need to go about it the right way. The other thing to point out is that BTAG is not a parish council. It is just a committee of the Borough Council, and that its decisions are overseen by the cabinet, and then whatever happens beyond it. It doesn't employ anybody. It raises a precept, but actually that precept's part of Boston Borough Council. So I think that Councillor Easton is correct. It should go to scrutiny first. We have a scrutiny committee to look at this, open scrutiny committee, and then it should go on to cabinet and then to come to full council. But that's my perception of it. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any more speakers on the amendment? Councillor Cantwell, I think you were first. Thank you. Councillor Bedford then.
Thank you. I support the two councillors here. Things should go to scrutiny first, because if you take it direct to cabinet, all you're going to be doing is inviting a call in, which would mean another extra meeting, etc. So for goodness sake, let's do the job properly. Just send it to scrutiny. It doesn't cost you anything, but it's looked at properly. And I'm speaking as a parish councillor as well as being on here. And I really do think it should go to scrutiny first.
Thank you, Councillor Bedford. Councillor Cantwell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would just note that Cabinet is accountable to full council, and full council is the highest decision-making body of this council. And I think it's right that such a valuable piece of work begin its life at full council and end its life at full council when there is a strategy to propose. I haven't gone into details about specific issues in rural communities because frankly I would be here for hours and I don't think anyone would like to hear me speak that long. I think this work does need a very strong mandate to continue. I am happy to support this going to Cabinet if it means we can have a serious look at this piece of work and how to go around it. I have no problem with this work beginning its life at scrutiny, but it needs to be given a strong mandate to begin that life cycle, Madam Mayor. I'll just note that BTAC was not used in comparison to a parish council, just as a geographical boundary between what is considered town wards and rural wards.
Thank you. So we now need to take the vote on the amendments. Oh, Councillor Doran, do you wish to sum up?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If I could.
Sorry, do we have another speaker on this? Councillor
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just for clarification, because we have here the population of Boston Borough Council is 2021, according to the census, was 70,500. But on the website of Boston, it says only 45,000. I think we should get the figure probably right, so we know where we stand. Anybody going to Boston Borough Council or Boston website, you will find that the census 2021, it says clearly 45,339. So just for information, we need probably to correct the figure. If it's 70 or 45, it's quite 25,000 different. That's all. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Doran, would you like to?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To that last point, it may be delineating between the town centre and the parishes. I could be wrong, but we'll get that looked into. If it reassures people, Madam Mayor, the sole reason for sending this to Cabinet is because it involves the development of a new policy. And that's something our Cabinet, I think, has been really good at. And I think something else our Cabinet's been really good at is consulting, liaising and sharing things with scrutiny in a way that, in fact, the Chief Executive had to rein me in the early days and say, stop sending stuff to scrutiny. You're sending too much. So please be reassured that the intention is always that the correct path is taken, but that we want as an administration to wrap our heads around the formation of this new policy, set the parameters, and then set it on its way. We have absolutely no opposition whatsoever to Councillor Cantwell's bringing this forward. We already do excellent work with the parish councils, which I feel has been missed out a little bit in the motion, the way it's been written, and we can address that. So if that reassures council, that's all our aim is to do this evening, is to start it on its journey with us, set the parameters, and then you will all be involved. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Doran. So I take there are no more speakers, in which case we move to the vote. So all those in favour of the amendment? Yeah, yes. Okay, yes, if you want to, yes. Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My amendment is to,
Excuse me, Leader.
Sorry.
I'm afraid the vote has already been taken. That question would have had to have been raised before the vote. We can't undo the vote. So we now move on to the substantive motion. Thank you.
yeah, so if it helps, councillors, the substantive motion is to refer the motion to Cabinet for consideration.
Councillor Gleeson. Councillor Gleeson, if it's more comfortable to sit to speak, please do.
It's all right. You need to stand up, else the legs won't work. I take on board what the leader says on this, and yeah, I'm more than happy now to support the substantive motion.
So that's clearly carried. Yes, are there any further speakers before we? Can I have a seconder for the amendment, please?
Yeah, I have to second, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. So can we go back? All those in favour? Now, anyone against? Clearly carried. Thank you. Can I ask Councillor Cantwell to introduce a second motion, please? Sorry.
Madam Mayor, some of us wish to withdraw before the second motion is considered. Okay.
Councillor Rylott.
Yes, change that to Councillor.
So Councillor Rylott, so it's all going to be Councillor Evans here, is it?
Second vote.
Is Councillor Evans? Thank you. Thank you, councillors. Right, thank you, councillors. We are now ready. So can I ask Councillor Cantwell to introduce the second motion, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And then there were fewer, I think is the words on that one. Apologies, councillors for taking up more of your time, but I would like to propose the winter fuel motion to full council that this council resolves to bring forward a council-led local awareness campaign to alert those eligible of pension credit, which in some aspects will help access to the winter fuel payment for those most in need. Request that the council leader write to the Chancellor of the Exchequer urging a review of the decision to means test the winter fuel payment and asking the government to ensure that vulnerable pensioners, particularly those who do not claim pension credit, are protected from fuel poverty. Commit the council to signing the Save the Winter Fuel Payment for Struggling Pensioners petition being run by Age UK and write to all members offering them the opportunity to petition themselves. And to encourage local efforts to promote pension credit uptake through partnerships with local charities and community organisations to that all eligible pensioners in Boston Borough are supported in claiming their entitlement. Madam Mayor, I am not here to discuss national politics or the performance of our newly elected Labour government. More so, we are all aware of the performance of the past Conservative government and its failings. In fact, I would be submitting this motion even if a Conservative government implemented it, as I think it's the right thing to propose, and sending a very angry email to Matt Warman if he were still in office. I do not want to debate national politics. That is Mr. Tice's job now. But I do want to discuss the impact this government's decision will have on Boston. Already a pensioner in the Five Villages ward has contacted me regarding advice and to raise concerns about the cut to winter fuel payments. I know some councillors have been contacted regarding this as well. I know we cannot change the government's mind on this, even though I think we should contact them with our concerns. But we can implement some actions locally, which will support our residents with the change. A local awareness campaign and forming partnerships with local charities and community groups will allow our residents to be better informed about the pension credit. Furthermore, supporting Age UK's campaign allows us to show those concerned about the cut that we are raising their issues. Madam Mayor, it is not too much to say that this motion, apart from the fact that it was meant to kickstart support we can offer locally and allow councillors to signpost residents to important information, is incredibly vital to our local residents' well-being. Again, I would like to thank my seconder, Councillor Evans, and Councillor Ryler, Danny and Brown for supporting this motion. Thank you also to Councillor Gilbert for offering his views on this motion as well. With that, Madam Mayor, I propose the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Cantwell. Do I have a seconder, please? Is this Councillor Evans?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't know where the error occurred somewhere along the lines. The seconders for these two motions should be swapped over. That being a technicality, I'm happy to second this motion.
Are there any speakers on this item? Councillor Dorian, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've got a number of quite minor amendments, and I've typed them up for my group, and I'm happy to, if you want to share, if it helps you. School tax. Oh yeah, can I give it to you after? Thank you, Madam Mayor. So there's just a few minor amendments in red. And if we go down the page, and thank you, Councillor Cantwell, for bringing this forward and to your group. So the second bullet point, the estimated impact of the decision, you know me in my research, it's gone up from 2 million to 2.5 million that Age UK have estimated the pensioners who will badly need the money. So just to update that figure. In the third bullet point, I've added the word some, the significant role that winter fuel payments play in helping some older residents of Boston. Just to acknowledge, Councillor Cantwell, that some older pensioners don't need the money. And that's all I'm doing there, is differentiating that out. The bottom line, I think it was just a grammatical mistake. The word "and" I think needs to come out. Then over the page, the first bullet point, I've added the well-being of some of our poorest older residents. Again, just differentiating that some don't need the winter fuel allowance and some do. And there, in the last point, Council resolves to, where I felt your motion fell a little, Councillor Cantwell, and not to be overly critical here, is that we already run quite a good awareness campaign around pension credits, etc., and encouraging local people to apply if they haven't done already. So it was just to take out the words "bring forward" a council-led local awareness campaign and substitute it with "acknowledge the council-led local awareness campaign." And then in the third bullet point there, to remove all the words in the brackets, because I personally don't feel it's appropriate as leader to sign that on behalf of the whole council, recognising that I lead a group of independent councillors and the opposition is made up of opposition councillors. And so I felt it was enough in that third bullet point to say that we write, Council can write, I can write as leader, to all members, offering them the opportunity to sign the petition for themselves. And then the last bullet point speaks to my earlier one, that we continue our local efforts to promote pension credit uptake. So I won't go through them all verbatim, Madam Mayor, but those are just the amendments I would like to move and look for a seconder.
Thank you, Councillor Dorian. Do I have a seconder on these amendments?
Happy to second, Madam Mayor.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, thank you. Just to offer some clarity for the leader's amendments, the paper as it's written tonight includes a series of notes, and then the bit that's the actual motion, if you like, the recommendation that you'll be voting on, is the bit from where it says council resolves 2 onwards. So the parts that I think have been put forward as an amendment, the only bit you need to consider and vote on this evening are those last 4 bullet points that the leader read out. Thank you.
Thank you. So with that, can I have a vote on the amendment? Those in favour? Or does anybody else wish to speak? Councillor Gilbert.
Say that having sort of supported the initial proposal, I'm more than happy to support the amendment. I think as local councillors, we know our area very well. We know the people that live here. We know the issues that relate to Boston, both in terms of low wages and in the past, sort of some issues around sort of education, levels of educational attainment. So it's a high likelihood that a lot of our residents are not going to be claiming the pension credits that are necessary to trigger payment of this additional allowance. So yeah, I'm more than happy to support the amendments that are put forward by Councillor Dorian. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gilbert. Any other speakers? Councillor Cantwell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I am happy to support the leader's amendments on this motion. It's an incredibly important issue to this council, and it's good to hear that the administration is taking notice as well. I would just ask that if the details of the council-led awareness campaign can be shared with councillors, if there's stuff we can put out to our parish councils, materials, that would be more than helpful. So yes, I'm very happy to see these 2 motions getting passed tonight with amendments, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Cantwell. So can we take this please to the vote? Oh, sorry, Councillor Danny, sitting down there.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you. All I can say, I will support the amendment. And I do believe as an authority is our duty to support the vulnerable in our town. And I think we can do a better job. We can help. And I think we should go forward. I think we are here to make a decision on behalf of our citizens and the Bostonians. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Danny. Now, just double check that there's nobody else wishing to speak. Can we take a vote then, please, on the amendment? All those in favour? Any against? No abstentions? Clearly carried. Thank you, councillors. So now we need to return to the substantive motion. So, Councillor Dorian. Yeah.
So I move the motion with the minor amendments.
Happy to second, Madam Mayor.
Vote. All those in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? Clearly carried. Thank you. Thank you.